Blessed be everybody. Hello and welcome to episode 17. I am so pleased and thankful to be talking to Reverend Alicia. I met her quite by accident on X. Her and I had seen each other's posts and we liked what we saw. So we started following each other. And I just had to talk to her because she looked very interesting to talk to. And her and I were doing a little talking before we started recording. So I'm like I said, Reverend Alicia, I love the background. We were talking about your background. Can you
Yeah.
just kind of tell our audience how the background came into be?
Well, I do read professionally for a living, and I do work on multiple services, so I have a backdrop normally, always when I work. And also, too, for my personal clients, I think it adds an extra nice touch. I put up the holiday lights, and I was a little bit slow in taking the holiday lights down, and I went and I got this great, tarot card room divider, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, I must have that. So I got it, and I said, now where do I put it? And I was like, oh, wait a minute, it would make a nice backdrop. So I just slid it behind the lights, and it's just stayed that way, and it works, you know.
I absolutely love it. I mean, because I just recently learned the tarot myself with my teacher who we had on previously,
Mhm.
and I can't say I it sort of has to relate to me and be like a story, but it has to sort of relate to me in a way for me to do a reading. But so tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to your path and came to be, and take as long as you want. You don't have to stop or anything until you've said everything you need to say. So just tell us a little bit about you and how you got on your path.
Awesome. Yeah, when I talk about getting on my path, it's like, you have to kind of like roll it all the way back to the beginning. Because I was born a mystic. This is a part of who I am. So I'm a little bit unusual anyway. Um, Even though there's a lot of readers, of course, in the Wiccan and Pagan communities. Um, it's not something that everybody is or embraces. When you start having visions when you're very young and you can't stop them from happening and they wipe out your eyesight and your hearing and you fall because you don't know where you are in space and time, it's kind of hard. And then you realize that you can't explain it to the adults, and the adults don't understand. And they have a total different idea of what it is that you're talking about. So that's gone back and forth many times over the years where the adults just didn't understand. So when I did actually start to come out a little bit further, it was because I had seen a Native American special. And here I am, because I am part Native. Um, I was always watching stuff on Native Americans on TV. And the special was great because they were talking about that there was spirit in everything. There was spirit, of course, in the animals, in the trees, in the plants, in the land, in the dirt, in the rocks itself. And you could speak to all of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you mean I'm not crazy? Because we really didn't talk about that. I think the only show at the time that was really embracing any of that stuff was The Amazing Kreskin, and my mother liked soap operas instead of him. I think we might have watched him once or twice. Um, but other than that, it wasn't really still spoken of, even though, like the 60s and 70s were all very kind of new agey, and they talked about the dawning of Aquarius and all of that. Most people didn't get it. They really didn't understand. They just sort of rolled with it. But at that time, there's also started being a lot of people that started coming into, witchcraft, of course, too. So when I realized that they were talking about ESP and such all of a sudden on television, I'm like, wait a minute, this is what I've got. This is what we're talking about. I know what this is now. And it just opened up a doorway for me. I started seeing things, and then they would come true, and it was getting a little bit weird, and I was freaking out my mother, and it I learned to get a better grip on it though as I get older. The visions didn't come the same way anymore. Everything started to shift. So when I met my first witch, I was kind of prepared for it because I had left Christianity and I was just like, this isn't working for me. We've tried, and I'm kind of grateful I did Bible study because at least I can have conversations with people about religion and I can come from an educated viewpoint. Otherwise, I don't think I would be able to have those conversations. But I'd really like to discuss with people what a religion is rather than what it's not, because I keep ending up in that strange place. My first witch was Noni Silverknife. She was the founding high priestess of the Georgian tradition. And she was kind of out here in Connecticut for a while. She had come from the West Coast. Her husband's work had brought him here. And she did my very first tarot reading. And it was really kind of wild because even when I reconnected with her again, I got to tell her that, everything that you did in my first reading was true. One of the things she did tell me is that I was going to do something significant for the Wiccan or witchcraft community. She said she saw serious priestess work ahead for me. And at the time when she told me, I was on that strange boundary of still being Christian and not totally getting what this Wicca stuff was. I did witness the very first ritual that she led, out in somebody else's backyard. It was just a little thing. But I wasn't really clear if I wanted to participate, so I just sat on the hill and I watched. I met, her through the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronisms, which is a medieval recreation organization. And I did meet some other people that, were self-defining as pagan as well. So that sort of got me started, and there really wasn't anything around. I'm glad that Zanoni gave us me and the old boyfriend then, a reading list. And that did serve well because, by the time I was deciding, yeah, I think I really am this other thing. I had that reading list in front of me as she was, moving away. And I think we take for granted now all this internet stuff and being able to stay in touch with people. When people moved, they really moved to the other side of the country and you couldn't connect with them. So it was only through the internet, through a mutual friend, that I was able to reconnect with her again. So I can't say that she was really my first teacher, but she was heavily influential in my start. I did try and practice as best I could with books. We used to go down to Magical Child in New York City, Herman Slater's old store, because there was one of the few places where we could buy our books. You couldn't find these books lots of times. You'd go haunting the used bookshops and stuff, and if you were lucky, maybe you'd find something, but usually not. So a lot of things weren't really widely available. And when we tried to kind of practice together sometimes, or even a couple of times, we tried to practice with friends, it was pretty bad. Our very first Beltaine, one of our folks danced off of a hill and she broke her leg, so therefore there was no ritual. It was just kind of a comedy of errors. None of us really knew what we were doing anyway. We were just trying. We were starting. We had some books. We wanted to see if we could do stuff too. We wanted to celebrate. And I felt very much a connection to the old gods. Only a couple of years in, I had a strange vision, and it was in my living room, and I connected with a deity, and she would ask me if I would serve her again. And my answer was yes. I didn't even hesitate. The answer is yes. That's what it was. And I'm like, now who was it? And I got told where I could find her symbol, which was a white horse. I only knew of the white horse. I knew nothing more. That was down at a local store that had just opened up. And yeah, it was there. It was this beautiful white horse bead that was sitting there in the front trays when I walked into the store. So I said, okay, that's, I guess, some confirmation, but I had to do my research to figure out who this deity was. And as I was going through my books, I decided that it was Rhiannon. That felt right. That felt like who I was connecting with. And, with that initial vision, kind of came this little spiritual honey-do list. that I got told to do some things. And I was supposed to start a church. And I'm like, what? Who am I? I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. You know? It was a little bit like the old comedy routine of like Noah and the Ark, going, right, what's a cubit? What do you want me to do? How am I supposed to give me some help here? And I just didn't understand what to do with that. So I sat on it, and I did tell my boyfriend about it at the time for a good number of years. So when we got together at one point, after there had been a falling out with a local networking group that had just started up, we met in the backyard in my own home in Bridgeport, and we talked about what we were going to do. We were all coming from very different backgrounds. Where do we start here? Because we don't have one denominator. And we decided, okay, well, since you got one person who's kind of Hindu Wiccan, and we've got another person who wants to kind of do Greek, but he also does Wicca. And me and the boyfriend were doing this Celtic thing. We're like, well, let's make it open. Let's make it open for the pagan community. So we came up with the idea of the Pagan Community Church. We decided we didn't want a networking organization. A coven was not our thing. So, we've changed our name since then because we've changed. I've changed. But that was what we did. It was supposed to be a church for the pagan community, And I think that people have gotten strange ideas over it over time. And it just became a lot simpler to have something that was unique and that was also, service markable, because, pagan community church, you cannot service mark. It's too generic. And it also, at the time when we changed our name, we were starting to form a tradition out of what I was being taught. So after I had started the church, the temple, I met my first teacher in a parking lot. I guess it was between like DMV and a bank. And, she just started talking to me, and we had a great conversation. And it's like, let's get together. Let's go hang out. And I went over to her place, and I met her boyfriend. We had dinner. When I realized how much she knew, and she was talking about the Wiccan Church of Canada, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Can you teach me? The depth of what she was talking about, totally caught me. And I had already asked for a teacher. I had already asked the universe, the gods, Rhiannon, please send me a teacher, because I am in over my head and I still don't know what I'm doing. And in a sense, I think it was probably a good idea, because, I was a lot younger then, and, I had a lot more energy. So I think I could do a lot. So I went and I learned, and I ended up learning more. So we started to form this tradition, out of what I was being taught. When she couldn't be my teacher anymore, she decided she didn't feel comfortable with it. She went back to her native tradition, and she is native. She could only take me so far anyway, because she had only gotten so far in the tradition herself. So I realized I needed to be hooked up with a new teacher. So I went and I traveled to Canada. I went and because she had moved back by that point. And we went to one of the circles, and there was nobody that she knew. And I was kind of sad about it. But she's like, no. We'll try and hook you up with somebody. We'll figure it out. And nothing ended up coming up out of that visit. But it's really strange how things work. That I ended up with somebody else after that old boyfriend from years ago. And he was doing a public access show. And he said, would you like to interview the High Priestess of the Wiccan Church of Canada? Because I've just set it up. And I'm like, no way. So, yeah, I was like ecstatic. I'm like, oh, this is like so awesome, So I went and I did the interview, and she was so gracious and she was so welcoming. And she says, you have to visit us up in Canada. You can come up and stay here. And so I was just, over the top and over the moon. And I just said, sure. So as soon as I could, I did travel on up there. And when I did meet them, Tamara and Richard James, I said, would you teach me? Because I need a new teacher. And I brought up my book with me. I was smart. I brought up my book. I said, this is what we've been doing out of what we originally started with from my first teacher, Rowan. I'm still friends with her, by the way. Yeah, that, can we continue, or what do you need to, what do you need me to do? So, we had the conversation and everything clicked. Even when I first met Tamara, it was like I felt like I was coming home. It just felt so natural. And it was so weird because years before, when Rowan had showed me a picture of Tamara, I said, wait a minute, I know her. I don't know how, but I know her. So, it was one of these strange synchronicities. So, yeah, a lot of things have happened to me, some of them good, some of them not so good over the years. And I had a lot of setbacks. And I think it's kind of strange that if you're attached to a particular deity, you might on some level be going through some of the same obstacles that they talk about with their mythologies that they went through. And I think I've run that gauntlet. So I think I'm on the other side of it now. At least I'd like to think I am. And I've been able to start rebuilding my life in a better way and rebuilding the temple in a better way. And our classes are still being taught over Zoom. We've totally migrated to a PowerPoint format. So yeah, I do teach. I don't charge. We don't charge in the craft. It really bothers me when I see so much of this silly stuff on the internet that people are charging an awful lot of money for, and they're not going to get what they pay for when they do that. So I would suggest that if people are really interested in Wicca, that they try and seek out something that's a little bit more traditional. And if that you have to pay, please walk away, because you should never pay for craft. Truly. This is my cat.
I was going to just say, we have a little visitor with a little tail.
Yeah, her real name is Mistopheles. I call her Ms. T for short. She's Misty.
Can you tell us how you got her? Tell us about her. And I mean, because witches, they can be your familiar kitty cats. I have 3 of them.
Well, she's not my familiar. She just, she's my roommate who doesn't pay rent.
Yeah. That's my girls through and through. That's my girls. I have 3 of them. Like I said, I have a calico. I have a tiger cat. She's considered a tiger cat because she's all multiple colors. And then I also have a black cat. There, go figure that one out. I have Aphrodite is the she is the calico, Aphrodite Alicia. And then Morgana, a Maleficent, is the middle child, as I call her, the middle child. She's my fat cat too, because she just eats. I'm like, stop. I'm gonna have to get a 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th job just to feed you, child. The black one is named Maleficent Hecate.
Yeah.
She has imprinted on me, like literally has imprinted. She follows me into the bathroom. I'm like, what do you want? I'm trying to go to the bathroom. It's like a child. Like my son and I are very close,
Yes.
but I mean, he doesn't just walk in when I'm trying to go to the bathroom. No, this child.
Cats have other priorities.
Get cats like, where are you going, Mom? I'm going to the bathroom, child. I'll be in a minute. But no, I spoil Maleficent rotten too. I give her little treats. I give her toys, and she's very, very spoiled. They're all very spoiled. Aphrodite, she's the eldest of the group. She's the old lady. She will be about 13 or 14 this year. I got her in September of 2013, and she was about 3 months old when I got her. So, or no, I'm sorry. I got her in December of 2013. I'm sorry. Her birthday is in September. So September 27th is Aphrodite's birthday. And yeah, so if you do the math, 7 and then 4 is what, 12? No, 11. So she'll be 11 this year in
Oh
September.
wow.
Yeah, she's the old lady of the group. She don't like people messing with her. I think when I had her fixed, so I have all my girls are fixed. They can't have kitties.
Mm-hmm.
But even though they're indoor cats, I still wanted to make sure that they are all fixed in case oopsies happen. You know. So when I got her fixed, I think the one of the um, people that help veterinarians, I think one of them abused her because she was
Oh.
very skittish. She would hide all the time. She would only come out for me and my dad. She wouldn't come out for pretty much anybody. And she hides from my son. She does not like my son. Um, so I think like someone abused her when I was getting her fixed, and I didn't like that at all. Morgana, she is the granddaughter of one of the cats. Like, for example, one of the stray cats in our neighborhood had a litter under our house, like literally under our house, and we caught all of them uh, and gave them nice homes. The only thing I didn't have the money to do at the time was get them spayed and neutered. There was 2 boys and a girl, and we got them all, nice homes. And the one boy I got attached to, we named him Matthias. And he, I had rescued another black cat called Callie, and he sort of accidentally did the deed, and I was too late to stop them. And she was in heat at the time. The Callie was in heat. And I named her after Kali Ma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I gave them all names, and then when we, adopted them out, they all gave them new names. Well, Callie had kittens. I was working somewhere else at the time, and I was able to come home from lunch, and she literally had her kittens up under my bed. So I'm like moving mattresses, and I didn't even know I was pregnant at the time with my son. But I'm just moving the mattress, and I'm crawling over the box spring, and she went up under my bed and had her kittens. She had about 7 boys. One of them, unfortunately, either breathed and then passed, or he just was born stillborn. I'm not really sure about that one, but she had 7 boys and a girl. The girl I named Buffy. Well, anyway, it was a grayish cat. I gave him to my cousin for a forever home, and he got her cat Preggers. And I got the granddaughter of Matthias, who is Morgana. So that's how Morgana came into this. And then someone rescued Mally for me, Maleficent, and gave her to me when I worked at a gas station here in a local gas station. And so that's how Maleficent came into our lives, our world. Now you had said that you're part Native American, and this
Right.
fascinates me because I have been fascinated even from a very young age. Whenever we would talk about the Native Americans, um, I was very fascinated in their culture, and I believe that I was probably Native American in another life. So, can you explain how did you find this out? Did you do anything? Have
We
you gone
always
to a
knew.
powwow?
Well, of course I've gone to powwows, you know.
Mhm.
I tried to explore it as much as I could, being a mostly like kid, you know, growing up in the suburbs in New York State. But you know, that's it's very limiting, you know, and at one point, because we had the elementary school's name that they had just built was named Quanticock, was named after one of the local tribes there. You know, they asked us in class, you know, how many of you in class are, you know, part Native American? Yeah, you know, because you're looking at a bunch of white kids, you know. And a lot of us, we raised our hands. They probably shouldn't have asked that, but they did. And even right down to being asked to do like a show and tell for Thanksgiving. You could do a native craft, or you could do a pilgrim craft. One of the settler crafts. And I made a little bow and arrow set, and I got into trouble because I went and I took my little bow and arrow set, which was made with twigs, really, and I shot one of the little boys in the butt that was making fun of me. So all it did was bounce off of his jeans. It didn't do anything. It was just this little thing. It was effectively it's a tiny toy, and I got into trouble for that. But yeah, it's been one of those things that I connected with, and I connected with nature very early on.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I'm mostly white, I still connected with that. So even when I went on to the witchcraft path, and I came out of the broom closet when I was 30 to my grandmother, they saw it as being, oh, well, she's into that native thing. So they went and they got me all these little chintzy, like, native T-shirts and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute, but, that isn't it.
I like the dream catcher. Easy for me to say. The dream catchers myself. Do you have any dream catchers?
Yeah, I have one. I admit it. But you know what? They're really supposed to be for babies. If you want to know more, if you're respectful with people, and you're willing to sit and listen, and a lot of people will be willing to share. I think when people are not respectful, when they try to come in like they know everything, that's a lot of trouble. So if I can do something for the Native community, I will.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for our public access television show, Keepers of the Flame, the one that we did on the Unity ride was probably our best show. And I'm not even in it. I put it together, on the computer afterwards, but I'm not even in it. It was all about the message. And if I can do something like that for people, I will. I will make the attempt. Because I haven't forgotten. And I really can't say I'm part of the Native community or anything. I think they put up with me pretty well. And I try to be as respectful as possible. Will I make mistakes? Probably. I'm going to, because I'm not a part of it. But I still honor it. But, it doesn't change the fact that I'm a witch. I'm a Celtic Reconstructionist, too. I am a part, of this tradition. So I don't see them as being in conflict with each other at all. If anything, I think there's probably a lot of things spiritually, I think, that is witches and pagans we can still learn from other cultures, including Native American. Because let's face it, Wicca's very white. It just is. And that would be something I'd like to see changed a bit, because it's disturbing me that that we're not being as open and welcoming probably as people should be as a whole in the greater community. That I would hope that people would feel comfortable coming to Wicca and witchcraft, even if they weren't of European descent. So.
And there's a lot more similarities, I think, between Native American cultures and Wiccans.
Oh, it's totally
we
different.
have Right, and we have so many similarities. I mean, but there's still differences, but there's so many more similarities. And I'm also Celtic Wiccan because in my heritage, I have a little bit of Irish and the German, so I was like, well, I'm part Irish. Let's give it a go.
But we're still Americans. If anything that
Yeah.
I've watched has been a dividing factor in the great pagan community, is that we were sort of kind of without a lot of titles and names for what we did. Or we say we like to practice something more from this culture or another. But now there's so many different divisions of paganism, so many different initiations and divisions of Wicca. I don't think it's always good, because people that maybe who are of Irish or Welsh or Scottish descent, or maybe they might want to like outdo it more than the Irish and Welsh and the Scots. So I understand the pull. I mean, yeah, I still go to the Highland Games and stuff too. But to say that you're going to isolate yourself within this ethnic group, totally, I don't think this is a really healthy way to go in the community, because I think we have a lot more in common with each other than we know, and we're all Americans. So I think that there comes a point where we have to acknowledge the fact that we're all kind of doing the same thing. We just have a bunch of different flavors. And, it's a lot of things have borrowed from Wicca. And Wicca has also been the thing that's opened up the door for all the other traditions, these other pagan traditions to come through, to be practiced. Pretty much everybody's a Reconstructionist. Even some faiths that you might not even think. I used to have conversations with my old drum teacher, Baba David Coleman, who was kind of like my spiritual father there for a while. He told me, he's like, you realize that this is all new, right? And I'm like, what? He's like, well, a lot of this stuff, we're reinventing ourselves with Yoruba. Yes, we're learning from people in Africa and stuff, but a lot of this, we're reinventing ourselves. It's new. What we're doing here in the USA is really new. And, so is Wicca and witchcraft. And that was what surprised him, too. He didn't realize how new it was. We're going back to Gerald Gardner. We're only going back to like the 1950s. Do I think that there was more there that Gerald was taught? Yeah, I agree with Doreen. There was something more going on. And his book of E, Art Magical, I understand, fell into the back of a filing cabinet, so they couldn't find it for many years. So it did exist. He was telling the truth there. Yeah, I think there's probably been a lot of fabrications from, witchcraft communities over time, and heck, I still see them. But I think that we're at the point now where we can really look at it with a better eye and maybe not have to bring the grandmas out of the broom closet, and say, well, my granny practiced or something like that to try and prove who we are. We don't have to prove who we are anymore. We don't need that kind of thing. We don't need that kind of lineage. We can just come into this religion if we want to. And there aren't too many truly spiritual religions available Westernly, especially mystery religions. That's all fallen by the wayside. The idea that even Christianity once was a mystery religion, that, of course, the way that was being practiced fell by the wayside. We have churchianity, not really even Christianity now. I'm sure people would disagree with me on that, but, their mileage may vary. So, that's the way I'm seeing it, is that, we've got this unique way of experiencing the spirit world, the occult, to go deeper, to connect with the gods. And I think those of us that are devotional, let's focus on that word devotional, are very different than probably the bulk of people that are coming in. The people that really want to honor the old gods. The people that are really curious and say, well, what do people used to do? I'd like to know about that. Not that I could be, an ancient Celt or an ancient Greek or what have you, but to find out something more, to go deeper, that you want to be able to respect and revere your gods and not treat them like slot machines, as one blog post put it. I think the better off we all are, that we're all doing the same work at that point.
Yeah.
So, recognizing too that the people that are not devotional will probably fall by the wayside within the next 10 years. Not too many of them will hang on. They'll find something else to do, some other adventure.
Mm-hmm. I know you had said that you saw your first vision. Now, how did you bring your visions to fruition, or did it just come naturally to you?
I didn't have any choice. They just hit me.
They just hit you.
They just hit me. They'd wipe out my eyesight and my hearing, and I would fall. And it was the same stream of images again and again and again. And you start thinking that you're crazy. And you can't explain it to anybody. Or, you'd fall and you'd say, Alicia, why did you fall? I saw something. Mm-hmm. And Alicia, what did you see? Did you not see the stick in front of you? Is that how you fell? And I'm like, no, I did not. I wasn't even conscious that there was anything around me. I couldn't. So I wish I could tell you everything that was, but I think some of the things that I saw are playing out now.
Mm-hmm.
in those old visions, and I'm not entirely sure how that all works. The visions that started coming after tended to be more visual,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they didn't really completely knock out my eyesight and my hearing the way that they used to. So it wasn't where I was come over by something.
Do you
It was that
like see
something was being
stars? Is that
shown.
when you say it knocks you out? Do you see stars maybe
Mm,
sometimes or get dizzy or
No,
disoriented?
no, I
No?
just, I just,
Okay.
it takes me a second to know where I am in space and time afterwards.
Okay.
Um,
Right now, I'm sort of in the dream state. Like, I see things in my dreams.
hmm
I've seen my deity in my dreams.
Yep.
She was wonderful and she was like a motherly figure, better than my own mother. For those who are returning champions or returning listeners or watchers, my mother and I did not have a very good relationship because my mother abused me physically sometimes and also very mentally when I was younger. So her and I don't have a very good relationship to start with. Um, but enough about me. Let's move over to the spiritual world because this has always intrigued me ever since I was young and wanted to be a ghost hunter. And I've seen all the programs you could even believe or
hmm
some that you can't believe. I used to watch Ghost Adventures, but then it just seemed like every time, oh, there's a demon. Oh, there's another demon here. Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of demons running
It's
around. Okay,
entertainment.
yeah, but
I did know somebody that was working on one of the original shows, and I did hear back about that they left because they realized that the show didn't have much use for them because they were just kind of there as window dressing.
yeah,
They they just would like hear a knock and they'd build like a whole show around the knock,
right,
and that was all they had.
right.
So that's not terribly impressive. That's not really great for entertainment. So they have to create all this stuff that is not real, and I think that's what people focus on. I did have somebody talk to me once about doing a TV pilot, and he was like, he wasn't sure what to do with me. He said, because, he already had another psychic for the show. And I said, you could use me as bait.
To see if they're legit, right?
you know, I, I, I'm used to the spirit world being around.
Right.
I started witnessing that early on in life, too. Um, I am a medium. I am clairaudient. I'm a natural channel, but I try so hard not to channel. It's one thing to channel deity. It's another thing to channel the dead. So that's not someplace where I want to go.
Have you
So
ever channeled the living?
I don't think you can channel the living.
I did one time. And they said because I can't do accents and I can't do impressions, but they said I had this lady's accent because she was a New Yorker down to a T. And that's the last time I ever did channeling. I was like, I don't know what happened and I don't want to know. Don't tell me. But I did get bits and pieces back a little bit, but not too much of what happened that night. Um, okay, so you are all of them, clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, and claircognate.
Yes, I just don't have psychic taste. I
I
didn't
never
even
thought
know
of
that
that.
was a thing until, once I was starting to read on it. And I was like, wow, people have that? How does that work?
Well, I sort of had psychic smell, if that counts.
Yes, so have
When I
I.
was in, I was at one of my very first. I was at my very first job, and they were teaching us a bunch of stuff because I'm in the computer world. I'm an IT tech by trade. That's what I do for another for a real job. This is just kind of on the wayside. But I could smell my grandmother passed in '99, and this was 2006. And I swear I could smell her perfume on my wrist as if she was touching my wrist. And I kept going, that smells like my grandmother. And she had passed, in '99. So about
Mhm.
7 years beforehand. So it was like, I just, and my uh, instructor, he's like, are you okay? I'm like, Yeah, can I go to the bathroom for a second? Because I need to sort this out. But I'm trying to get the clairvoyance. I'm clairaudient, claircognate. Sometimes I'm clairsentient, but I want to see spirits only because it's kind of personal, so I'm trying to get my clairvoyance to. I can see things as I'm about to fall asleep.
You have
Like
to
when
keep
you're just
working
between
with it.
dreaming, and then when I dream very vivid in color. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm in that dream. I- I've astral projected many times. I've lucid dreamed a couple times. But I want the whole package, and I want it while I'm asleep, and I want to see with my physical eyes basically what you see. So
Keep working on it, and things might
I'm
open up.
definitely trying. Tell us tell us a little bit about your gifts. Um how did you said from a very early age you saw a vision. Um did they did you have all of the abilities very young at age, or did it come with, like, did they all kind of come in spurts?
No, it was always there.
Mhm. Okay.
My mother commented on it that she was scared when I was a baby that I didn't talk on time.
Okay.
But she did realize that somehow I would look at her and she would know exactly what I wanted. And it
Yeah.
wasn't anything that she was doing. That's She's like, no, wait a minute, Alicia's doing that.
My son
Actually,
would grunt. He would grunt. Okay, yeah, I want this. Okay, you want this, don't you? And he, but
yeah.
yeah, my mom said that my brother would do that. My son did pretty much the same thing. So he would grunt. He didn't talk till he was about 4, but he would grunt and tell me. I'm like, I'm mom. I know what instinctively what's going on. Um, so you give readings. What kind of Tell us about what kind of readings you do. We're at the 44 mark here, so it looks like
Mhm.
we're doing pretty good. Just tell us what you offer, and how much you offer, and then tell us what exactly goes into a reading with you, because I know everybody's different, every psychic is different,
Mhm.
how they do their readings. So just tell us all about the readings that you do.
Well, I pretty much learned how to roll with things pretty well working on services because you have to be fast. And people are usually pretty direct with their questions. If I have the opportunity to have a one-on-one reading with somebody, I usually do them like over Zoom or Skype these days. Then it means I can do a general reading first and then go into questions. And that's not an issue for me because I'm pretty fast anyway. Most of the time, it's very simple stuff. When is he going to call? How does he see me? It's that sort of thing. These love readings, everybody wants the love readings. But yeah, I answer things on every topic, a combination of tools and gifts. I do things like remote viewing, which is not something that most people really do. So I help people find lost objects, sometimes lost people. But that takes me the longest of anything that I do, so people have to be patient. And that isn't something that people are very patient for on a service. The best one that I did for somebody in terms of helping them find a lost person, she did give me feedback because it was so I'm glad they found her quickly. But it was good to have the feedback that they could have found her, and everything was true that I told her, even right down to the little shack at the end of a road that was no longer used anymore, that had a bunch of unfinished wood on the inside because it was only finished on the outside. I got it. So, I do these things. If I'm on the service and somebody asks me, I'll do the best I can for them. I really hate actually even charging for something like a lost person. I don't like doing that at all. So, people have come to me for things like that. But I'm usually helping people find their car keys, their passport. Things like that. In some cases, I was helping somebody find all the paperwork that her father had hidden after he had passed away. She couldn't find it all. So I was helping her find it. So, I do things like that. But those you can't use tarot cards for.
No,
Yeah.
I would be interested in spirit communication because there's someone I would love to. I mean, I speak to them and I hear them, but I can't see them.
Well,
So
you need to start working with that. You know what you might want to try? Believe it or not, a scrying bowl. Get yourself whatever type of water you want to put in it. Try to use that for spirit communication. See if that will help you connect. Because
okay.
usually we need a focus.
Right.
And the water is very good for that. So, a scrying bowl can be used for a lot of different things. That's one. See what path opens up for you, because the path that opens up for you might not be the same as somebody else's.
Right.
I'm doing a lot more now than when I first started. I used to have a witchcraft shop for a couple of years. But being on the services constantly has changed me. I would say leading ritual has made changes within me. I can't even describe what they are. So the more that you do, the more it's going to change you from the inside out. The only thing I'm going to say is be careful what you wish for, because you might end up
Might
with
just
too much
get it.
Yes.
I
And
mean,
that
I
would be
do want to see them
yeah.
physically with my own eyes. Like, I know. How do you see spirits? Like, do you see an
Spirits
outline?
aren't
Do
always
you sense,
corporeal.
or does it look like a real person?
Sometimes every once in a while they are corporeal. They do look like a real person. It shocked the
Hmm.
heck out of me, because I used to have this house in Bridgeport,
Wow.
where I started the church. And on the corner was an abandoned house. And the top half wasn't boarded up. And I saw an old woman looking out the window. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Nobody lives there. Is that what I think I'm seeing? And I
A,
looked away for just a second.
a ghost.
She was gone. A friend of mine moved in on the other side of the corner. And in that apartment, she said, did you see her? I said, you mean the woman on the corner? She's like, yes. I saw her through the window. I'm like, yeah, I've seen her too. So, spirits will show themselves sometimes to some people, but don't always expect them to be corporeal. A lot of times I'm going to see them, effectively, if you will, with my third eye. I'm going
Right.
to see them mentally. I know they're present.
I can see this person with my third eye most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I did have a student that really did impress me, because there's a spirit in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him to describe the spirit. And he did, right down to what he was wearing.
Hmm.
He got it. He totally got it. So, really, if one person sees it, another person can see it. You
Mm-hmm.
just have to try and hone that connection, and you'll start to see it. It might be with your mind's eye, it might not be corporeal, and that's okay, because most of what you're going to see is incorporeal. And it gets even creepier, though, when you get things like spirits will come and tap you on the shoulder, because they'll do that.
Yeah.
It's been very strange.
I can feel physical touch with this spirit that I'm talking of or speaking of. I can feel their touch most of the time. Uh, it's just I want to physically see them because they are very important to me. Let's put it that way.
Just stay open
Um,
in your dreams for that. If you really want to be able to sit down and have those conversations, try to focus on your dreams. This is something that I tell a lot of my clients to do, that really anybody can do. Do it the old fashioned way. Take out their picture, light a candle, put out a nice place setting, just like you would, at salad. Give them their favorite food and drink without salt, and invite them into your home, into your life, and tell them that you'd like to see them again in your dreams. Just stay open. And sometimes just that little bit is enough to open up the doorway to be able to do that. Because you need to be able to allow them in. And I think a lot of people don't know how.
well, now
So,
how about the other side of it? So I have someone who is living who is trying to get into my dreams, and I don't want them in my dreams. I've told them
that's
I
psychic
want
self
nothing to do with
defense.
them. Yeah, I've tried
Somebody's
everything
going
I
to be
can
in
think of.
trouble. They do that with me.
Well, it's
No.
someone who has an obsession with me. I've told this person many times I want nothing to do with them. Um, I don't need their kind of thing in my life. And I told them many years ago that I didn't want this, and they just can't understand. And they have to keep, spiritually talking, spiritually talking, spiritually talking. And it's like driving me mad. It's like, I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to hear you. I only want to talk to a certain
It's a
person.
parasitic connection. You have to cut the parasitic connection.
Yeah.
That's what these creepy psychic vampires all do. These narcissistic, sociopathic parasites that try to feed off of other people. And they will do that with you, but you really have to cut them off. So, I always suggest purification to start.
Okay.
Then protection. But yes, you have to make yourself a very untasty target.
Right.
And, that also means cutting any connection with them physically too.
Oh
Totally.
yeah, it's been 2 years since I physically talked to this person, and they just don't get it.
Yeah. And they
said,
don't
if I wanted to talk to you, if I wanted to be over at your apartment, trust me, I would already be there. But I don't want anything to do with you. So stop talking to me. He's like, well, that's torture. I don't care if it's torturing you. It's torturing me that you're talking to me spiritually and I am hearing your voice when I don't want to hear it. I only want to hear someone else's voice, not yours.
I totally hear you. I've been through this similar experience. We'll talk more later.
Okay. So is there anything else that now for tarot readings you said about $100 for that?
I charge really by what you're asking me to do and how much time. So typical readings, it's $100 for half an hour. Most people do not need more than half an hour. Some people might need 45 minutes. It's rare that people need an hour. I'm willing to do things like Reiki healing and stuff within that as well. I charge more for remote viewing. I also have limits as to how long I want to do that. Same thing with mediumship. So those are separate. So, I've got it so that pretty much any reading that you need from me, it's still a lot cheaper than what you would pay for me on the service. So, you also have the one-on-one. You have my quality time. And, I don't abandon people afterwards. If you need me, if you need to connect, if you need magical advice, if you need help, I'm there for that too.
Okay.
So, I'm there to help. I'm always
there. The only thing I would ask for is like the mediumship. So connecting with this one person that I want to connect to, even though technically I'm already connected to them, it's a complicated situation. Let's put it that way. But I'm technically already connected to them. I just want someone else to see them the way I see them. Because I want to know that my feelings and when I hear them talk is validated, I guess, in a sense. I mean, I would all I ask is that you, as long as you can communicate with them and see them and they'll talk to you, then I'm validated in what I'm hearing from them and seeing when I do see. I mean, sometimes, like, when they move their arm, I can see like a grayish movement. Sometimes, like, it's very fast because I think they're on a higher plane than we are, and that things will tend to be faster. But like sometimes if he will move his arm or something, I will see that grayness. It's like a grayish, not smoke, but kind of like that. Like it's a very fast gray light that goes past. The touch, I can definitely feel the touch. Like I can feel them holding me at night. If that gives a little bit of enlightenment. But I can definitely feel them, their touch at night when I am asleep. So, or even if I'm just drifting off, I can still feel their arm as if their arms were around me. So there's that.
I think you're just too connected in the first place. And, I think you just have to get used to the idea of what you're going to have to decide to do, of where your comfort zone is, and being able to draw boundaries with the dead. If you're going to
Um,
continue to work with them on any level, you
right.
need to have that separation. You need to have the boundary.
Well, with this one, I
Otherwise, you
don't
get very
really.
mixed up.
Yeah, I there is no real boundary that I want from this
Mm-hmm.
specific spirit. They just kind of came into my life by accident. So, and it was a happy accident.
Okay.
So, in a sense, I owe this person uh a lot um because of what I found out. So, um he he may not think it, but I feel like I owe him a lot because of him coming into my life and
Mm-hmm.
showing me that there's more to life than just what we see and hear and feel and stuff like that. So, um, but it looks like our time is up, Alicia. It's
Mm-hmm.
been so wonderful to meet you finally, face to face, so to speak, and then also, talk to you, get to know your background. If anyone is curious or does want a reading from Alicia, everything will be in the description field. All you have to do is send me your links, Alicia. I will
Okay.
put them on in the
Sure.
description fields of YouTube and Rumble. So if you like Rumble, head on over to Rumble and click on Alicia's links that she will send me in a little bit. And you can get a half hour reading, whatever you wish, remote viewing, whatever you happen to request from her, she will definitely get you. And we have to get you back on, Alicia. We have to.
Sure.
I still have some more questions I didn't get to ask because unfortunately we only have an hour.
Yeah.
And I usually only stay up till like 2 a.m. Because I don't work till like 11 o'clock tomorrow. So.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that I will probably be up a little bit, at least to talk to my son and speak to who I need to speak to. So, but I thank you so much, everyone. Matt, you got anything? Who we got coming up next week? I forgot.
We have Dr. Christopher John Sharp,
Okay, great. And he is what?
Doctor of Philosophy.
Philosophy. Okay. Wiccan, pagan, both.
Pagan.
Pagan, okay. For all my pagan brothers and sisters, we love you. Matt and I met quite by accident, and he's pagan. So I agree with Reverend Alicia that we all have similarities more than we have differences, and we all need to come together and say, yeah, I am pagan, I am Wiccan, but I am of the magical spiritual world, and that is what is beautiful about all of us, because we're all creations from nature. We all came from nature and we shall once again return to nature. So next week, again, who is it, Matt? I'm sorry, say it one more time.
Christopher John Sharp.
Okay, John Sharp. All right, so we will see you next week. That's all for us. Thank you, Reverend Alicia,
Sure.
and we'll see y'all next week. So have a great one and blessed be.
That's a big.